Hey guys, Sam from West Meadow Rabbits here, and I know we usually talk about rabbits, but I'm sure a lot of you are also interested in producing all kinds of food, including vegetables, on a small area. Now, as many of you know, my main vegetable garden, which consists of this space, is pretty much powered exclusively by rabbit poop. I have built up probably about 16 inches of amazing humus on what was once a couple inches of soil and then rocky, sandy New England subsoil. And part of that strategy that I do is by mulching the surface of the beds to retain water, to create a moist microclimate for various invertebrates, to break down the material that I put in here because I don't fully rot my rabbit manure. I'm going to make a separate video on how I specifically use rabbit manure and the way I think it's most effective to get good results in your garden. Obviously, this doesn't apply to commercial growers. Everybody's got different goals. But if you've just got a rabbit operation, small rabbit operation, and you want to kind of get your garden booming, this is a great way to do it. So what I'm doing right now is applying a straw mulch on top of the garden bed. Now, normally, I have spring crops in here, so I've already pulled those out, and then this is what the ground will look like before it gets mulched. So you can see there's various organic material in here from my compost anyways. So the soil is obviously incredibly fertile and has plenty of organic material for different microorganisms to pull nutrients out of. The problem is, at least where I am, by midsummer it's starting to get pretty hot and dry. So if you don't cover that soil up, it will dry out the first couple of inches and dry out your garden a lot faster. So by even putting on a few inches, but I prefer a very thick layer of mulch, you can really dramatically increase the growth rates of your plants. So this is what I've had without any mulch, and it's going on now. I'm a little late in the season because I was sick, but it's a similar idea. Now, a big debate people have when it comes to mulching gardens is, should you be doing permanent mulch like wood chips, which I do in my perennial beds up front and around my fruit trees and berry bushes? Should you use some kind of other carbon material that you have on hand? Is it hay? Is hay okay? Does it have weed seeds in it? What about straw? And the answer is it really depends on what your goals are. So the best source of carbon, which is a good mulch, is one that is affordable to you, ideally a waste product you already have lying around. If not for your waste product, a waste product that somebody else has that you can acquire for free or very cheap. That's the best solution, because that way you're making the best use of resources and you are not spending a lot of money on it. Hey, check out this spider. Classic example of invertebrates. That's a mother with an egg sac. They live right below the surface of the soil and they eat all kinds of pests. I will tell you, when you've got a no-till garden going, pests really aren't a major issue if you do it right. Anyways, back to what I was saying though. Problem with, there's a couple problems with each type of common carbon that you're going to encounter though, and it's going to depend on your region. So where I am, there's a lot of forest. The most common type of carbon that you can get for free is wood chips. And of course, I have liberally wood chipped all of my permanent beds, but I don't like to do it in my actual garden for a couple of reasons. I think it's great for paths in vegetable gardens, but for actual gardens themselves, especially if you're doing a high intensity garden with multiple different crops a year, as I do in this very small space, you need to be able to be constantly adding nutrients to it, and those nutrients need to be quickly accessible. Now, the advantage of carbon, as many of you will know, is that it slows down the basically decomposition process and helps create a more balanced product. But that's not necessarily a good thing if you're planting really intensively and you need your plants to have access to those nutrients really quickly. And the other thing is, wood does take a very long time to break down, so it can be a bit of an issue if you have crops that need to be surface sown, like carrots or greens or anything like that. That being said, if you were going to go with a larger, more kind of established seedling regularly, like tomatoes or peppers, for example, you may be able to swing it, but again, you also have to be really careful with wood chips, because different kind of wood chips can really alter the acidity of the soil, which can make it good or bad for different things. Also, another risk when you're putting down carbon, period, is you're going to attract a lot of great invertebrates, but you're also going to attract more things like slugs and things that, snails of that nature, that do better in a more moist environment. So that's something to keep an eye on. So my preferred method usually is either hay or straw. So I will top dress this with partially decomposed rabbit manure, and then I will plant the spring crop Then after that's rotted down a bit, I will come in and cover it with either hay or straw. Now, hay and straw, there is some controversy. The nice thing about straw is actually a stalk of a wheat plant or an oat plant. It is not a leafy product, really. It's what's left over after the plant has been harvested and dried. It's not very nutritious, so it's not that useful for a lot of applications. If you're out in grain country in the Midwest, they actually just burn this stuff because it can be kind of difficult to get rid of. Where I am, there's not a lot of grain grown, so you can get these for about $12 for a 40-pound bale, which does pretty much all of my garden here, which is about, I would say, probably 20 feet long and 8 feet wide at its widest. So that's not a bad deal. I can get orchard grass hay cheaper, and there is an advantage with hay in that it's a green product, so it's a little bit more rich in nitrogen. It does have a little bit extra nutritional value for your soil if that's something you're looking for. Problem with hay, though, is, especially the cheaper meadow kinds, is that it is coming out of a field and it is going to have significantly more weed seeds. Now, that's usually not a problem for me because basically the great thing about the mulching system is if you put this on thick enough, we're talking really thick here, if you put it on thick enough, it's going to smother out anything underneath, and by the time the weed seeds germinate in this, your plants are already established, and they will be growing so fast because of all the water they have access to and the positive microbiome in the soil. They will just outcompete any weeds. So I don't have issues with weeds and hay. The other thing to keep in mind about straw is if you're trying to do organic or non-GMO, it is going to be very difficult to get straw that is readily available, that is organic and non-GMO, and it will be significantly more expensive if you can find it. That's because most grain in the country is grown in conventional factory agricultural conditions. Not making a value judgment on that, that's just the reality. And most of those grains are going to be genetically modified and or grown with pesticides, fertilizers, and all those sort of things. Now, I'm of the mindset that it's already been dried, and when you have this vigorous of a natural community here that's been established in this garden over 10 years, longer than that, it sort of doesn't really have a major effect. But if that's something that's really important to you, it's going to be very difficult to do that with straw. With hay, particularly orchard grass hay, not alfalfa, which would be too expensive anyways, you're still able to find at least non-genetically modified versions of that plant. It may be very difficult still to find organic, and again, it'll be very expensive, but at least it's an option that I don't think is easily available with straw. Either way, though, I think your garden would benefit enormously from a top mulching with some form of carbon. It's going to give a ton of food to the worms, to the various isopods and arthropods in your garden. They will create a whole ecosystem. If you're like me and you get this really established, you'll start to see salamanders and toads and even tree frogs, which are all eating insects that would bother your plants. It provides great habitat for parasitic wasps that attack pests. And more importantly, it adds a ton of fungus and bacteria habitat that allows your plants to really efficiently absorb nutrients. And there goes a monarch butterfly. Allows your plants to really efficiently absorb nutrients, and it also just creates an environment where they can have a ton of water that even during the driest season with this, I can get no rain for 2 weeks, and I won't be watering. The only thing to keep in mind, like I said, either way, you want to make sure your plants are established when you put this stuff down, either right in the spring when you're putting your seedlings in, just so they have a head start on any weeds that do show up, because what's good for your plants is also going to be good for weeds. But if your plants have a few week head start, they're just going to outcompete anything else, because this is going to give them such a boost. And you'll get fantastic harvests, low maintenance. Once my plants get a little bigger, it's already all set with my tomatoes, but once these guys fill in and I put my beans and cucumbers in here, I won't be weeding for the rest of the summer. So it's a fantastic solution. Hopefully I'll be getting some meat rabbit videos out to you guys soon. I've been a little busy with the plants. Obviously, it is the middle of summer. Otherwise, if you like these kind of videos and you want me to branch out a little bit from meat rabbits, by all means, let me know. If you want me to just stay focused on meat rabbits, go ahead and give me that feedback too. Either way, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this, and I hope if you enjoyed it, you like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks.